Hey, good morning. This is Sean from the Voice from the Dirt Road. Glad to see you. A lot is going on this particular week, and I want to just tell you today, tongue twisted. Want to tell you today that one of the things I'm going to try to do for you is bring you up to speed on everything that's going on in agriculture, at least those big rocks. And not going to hold you too long this morning, but I think a lot of significant things are happening internationally. Then also here in the United States, and then also here locally. One of the things I want to do before I jump right into it, just tell you right off the top, we're going to be talking three things. I'm going to talk about Iran. I'm going to talk about what's going on with the peace deal. I'm going to talk about the screw worm, what's currently going on with that. And then I'm going to talk about the pressure that Georgia's still facing on the bankruptcy. But before I do all of that, let me walk you through the stool so that you understand what this show is all about and what we focus on. As y'all guys know, I know a lot of y'all guys follow me. I want to say thank you for that. We focus on this stool that we put together a long time ago, and this stool is focused on row crop, on livestock, on forestry, and all of those things are supported by our USDA. And as y'all guys know, we got a lot of things happening in each one of those pillars. And then on top of that, we always come back and say, okay, where are we at on the farm bill? And I'll spend some time next week because a lot of Congress was out this week because we just had the elections, different runoffs around the country. So a lot of the Congress was back at home. But we'll talk about where we're at on the farm bill next week. I'll give you more detail on that. But what I wanted to just tell you today is when I'm talking to you today, everything that we're talking about is going to touch every pillow of this stage of this stool that we actually have, every leg of it, but it will mainly focus in on livestock. As y'all guys know, let's just jump right into it. um you know um if you're not aware, I know some of you may not. I can clearly understand that it's not a big deal. When I'm not on this particular platform, Voices from the Dirt Road, on occasion, I'm asked to be a military analyst on mainly on News Nation, and in this particular capacity, I'm usually talking about what is going on with the war with Iran, what's going to happen next, and all those kind of things. If you hadn't seen that, you can Google it or go back to YouTube, and you'll see some of those hits that we had. But just last week or earlier this week, I was on. I think that was either Monday or Sunday. One of those days, I was on talking about the current situation that we actually have in Iran. And what I mean by the current situation we have in Iran is I said a very, in my mind, a very powerful line in that particular analysis. I told them that, or told the audience that I spent a significant amount of time in the Middle East. I told the audience that I spent time in Israel and pretty much all the countries that are involved. I've actually personally been there. Now, I want to make sure everybody clearly understand I have never been to Iran and never the desire to go to Iran. However, I've been in the Middle East and in most of the countries that they mentioned all the other times. But with that being said, I said this line in 5 days. Then I guess it was on Monday. I said in 5 days, the Middle East is a very tough neighborhood, and a lot of things can happen in the Middle East that will have great effect on do we actually get a peace deal. And I think if any of us has been following the news, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday, the president was in France at the G7 announcement, and he actually signed the MOU. And then the vice president was supposed to be on a plane right now as we speak, headed to Switzerland to sit down face to face and sign the MOU. With all of those things said, currently right now, as I'm speaking to you this morning, Israel is fighting Lebanon again, or actually Hezbollah, that's stationed in Lebanon, which has put pressure on the agreement. And then on top of that, here back in the United States, Democrats and Republicans have pushed back on the MOU that we have already signed and said is not a very good deal for the United States. But let me take a break right there before I get too far down into it and just let you look at the MOU for yourself. Two things I wanted, the MOU, just to make sure everybody clearly understands, when we put together MOU on the national stage or international stage, it's really going to be no more than 2 pages. Very short, very high level, which is what you want to see. But I just want to bring 2 things to your attention. If you take the time out and look at it, and we'll post this for you so you can read it for yourself. Point number 4 and point number 6, I actually highlighted them for you. Point number 4 is in purple. Point number 6 is in gold. Point number 4 it basically says that upon signing this document, all parties involved, Iranians and the Americans, upon signing this document, Iran has the ability to start selling their oil and selling other things and actually making money immediately after signing. That means that Iran will start bringing in money, and on top of that, who knows what they're going to be able to do with it. So a lot of people had some issues with that particular point right there. And then point number 6 that's there in highlighted in gold, that point there talks about the $300 billion that the United States and the president and Vice President Vance is saying that money is not coming from the United States. But if you look at the wording, it clearly says that the United States will be administering. So that means behind the scenes that everything is going through us. And again, a lot of pushback on that from our civilian leadership back in D.C. on the Democrat and Republican side. And right now, as we speak, the vice president is supposed to be on the plane headed to Switzerland early this morning. He actually made the official announcement that they are not going. So right now, as we speak, I'm not 100% sure at 7:07 in the morning, Friday morning, do we actually have a peace deal or not? And if we don't, will we be back into another war, back into conflict? With that being said, you can see here on the very last page, this document has already been signed by our president, by Supreme Leader, or not the Supreme Leader, their parliament, I think their parliament leader, and then people from the negotiators from Pakistan. So with that, this will be posted on this particular page and other places so that you can read it for yourself. But I do want to bring you up to speed this morning and let you see the latest video of the vice president talking about this particular issue.
Oil tankers began moving through the Strait of Hormuz again as the U.S. lifted its blockade of Iranian ports after more than 2 months. Meanwhile, the Trump administration is being criticized over a $300 billion economic relief plan for Iran. CBS News correspondent Jesse Mitchell reports.
A White House spokesperson tells CBS News Vice President J.D. Vance is no longer traveling to Switzerland Thursday night, saying plans for the upcoming talks to end the war have not been finalized and that the U.S. delegation has been prepared to depart at the first available opportunity. The initial memorandum of understanding between the U.S. and Iran to stop fighting was signed separately by each country Wednesday. Defending the current agreement earlier at the White House, the vice president rebuked some members of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's cabinet for condemning the points that have been made public.
If I was in the cabinet of the Israeli government, I might not be attacking the only powerful ally that I have anywhere left in the entire world.
On social media, President Trump wrote, quote, "These fools who think I haven't been tough enough on Iran when the stock market just hit a record high and oil prices are tumbling down are either jealous, bad people, or stupid." On Capitol Hill, lawmakers across both parties have criticized terms of the deal.
Literally everything that President Trump said he was trying to accomplish with this war has failed to accomplish.
I believe he has delayed the Iranian regime's ability to get a nuclear weapon, which is very, very important. But my hope would have been that he would have finished the job and basically eliminated that threat in the future.
While others say they support giving diplomacy a chance.
cautiously optimistic. I'm glad the markets are responding well, but the markets are ultimately going to be responding to the details that we all need to see.
A White House official confirmed to CBS News that senior Trump administration officials hosted a briefing call Thursday with congressional leaders about the agreement with Iran. Jesse Mitchell, CBS News, New York.
Well, you say to yourself, Sean, what does that have to do with Voices from the Dirt Road? And I tell you exactly what it has to do with Voices of the Dirt Road. Is because we thought we had an agreement, gas prices that went down, fertilizer prices had dropped, all kind of things that started to drop. Now the question comes in as the market started opening back up this morning, and it looks like the deal is off. It also don't look like it. Israel is currently fighting as we speak with Lebanon. The question is, will all of those things start spacking back up again? And then how do we get to the finish line? So this is the reason why I bring it to you on this particular platform, is because all of these things that we're talking about that's happening internationally is actually affecting farmers across the board. Don't make a difference if you tie the livestock, row crop, forestry, or even the USDA across the board. It will have great effect on our farmers, because that diesel price that just fell the other day, where they talk about the markets, now I believe when the markets open back up, because it's a dark cloud back over this situation again, that potentially we're not going to be a peaceful solution, it potentially is probably going to go back up, and I believe it will go back up. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, because this issue here is what I call current operations. These are the things that are happening right now as I'm speaking to you on the air. With that, I want to move now to the thing that's kind of a little bit closer to us as farmers across the board, especially on the cattle side. But it doesn't make any difference if it's cows, horses, chickens, your pet, wildlife, whatever, is we are still dealing with the screwworm pressure that's actually out there. And let me just kind of orient you again to the facts that we know when it comes to the screwworm. We still, at this point, just like I mentioned last week, we still have the screwworm that is still in Texas and also in New Mexico. With that being said, it's still at this point confirmed 12 cases. One of the things that we have learned from last week to this week is right now, farmers in Texas and down in that particular area are not happy with the way that the USDA is doing a couple of things. And what I mean by that, if a farmer picks up the phone and says, hey, I have identified a screwworm being on one of my cattle, one piece of my livestock or something on my farm, including a dog or cat, whatever it was, then the USDA in the past, the way they used to handle it was that they would just bring the flies in and release them and do all that. Now they put in the farmer's farm in quarantine. And because the farmers don't want to go in quarantine, we're running into a situation where they're not receiving that particular phone call. So that's a friction point that they got to work out, because the key is for all the farmers, USDA, the state agencies, for everybody to work together to ensure that we can actually stop this screwworm situation. Last week, I actually took you through great detail to tell you exactly what a screwworm was. I know when we say that, it brings things to your attention, but really all it is a fly, and then the larva of that particular fly, it actually only wants to land on a animal that has an open wound. The key piece that I want you to know and understand, that this animal that is landing on is an animal that is alive, or even a person. A person can actually get it if you got an open wound, but you're alive. It's not like you see something dead on the side of the road. They don't want something that's dead. They want a live animal or person or whatever, and they actually eat fresh meat. I know that's very morbid, but I think that's a key piece that you need to understand. But the other thing I also want you to understand before I move from this subject is this has no effect on our food consumption or our market when it comes to the meat. This, if an animal has a screwworm, veterinarians have the medicine that they need to give the animal, or the spray they need to give the animal, all those kind of things to fix it. It has no problem with addressing the issue. So this is not a food consumption problem. This is a problem of trying to eradicate this particular fly, like we did years ago back in the early 70s. As y'all think y'all guys know, I told you last week, it was 60 years ago. So we heard about this the first time in 1966. I won't go back through all of that, but at the end of the day, we have the tools in place. We all just need to work together to ensure that the left hand and the right hand knows what's going on, and we keep what's most important, stopping this screwworm. With that being said, here in the great state of Georgia, where I'm at, our Secretary of our Commissioner of Agriculture, Mr. Tyler, has put control measures in place. I thought that was outstanding that he decided to do that, even though we don't even have a case. But I thought it was very smart of him to say, okay, if any animals are coming into our state, they will be checked before they come into the state, which I think is outstanding. It doesn't make any difference. It's horses, cows, chickens, goats, whatever it is. It's stations now as trucks or individuals that are bringing animals in. They will be stopped. They will be checked by the Department of Agriculture at the state level to ensure that these animals are fine. And if they're not, then they have to go through some other protocol. But I just want to give a shout out to our agriculture community for doing that, because I think it's very important that in this situation, don't wait on the federal government to fix it for you. You need to make sure that you got things for yourself put in place. And I just encourage all the farmers out there to do the same thing that I'm doing every day. I go out and make sure that I check my animals and kind of go from there. Again, we do not have a screwworm problem here in Georgia, but you never know what you don't know unless you go out and check your animals. And right now, we are in a situation, at least in my part of Georgia, that we're basically every 3+ days, we get a major rainstorm. I don't want to be the person say that we didn't pray for the rain, because we needed the rain because we was in a drought. But however, right now we actually getting enough. We actually getting rain. But now when you go out to try to spray your cows or put some pollen on them for the flies, if it rains the very next day or that afternoon, it washes right off the back and you still have the flies. So, you have to take the good with the bad. And that's just where we're at. But my recommendation is just to be to all our farmers and pet owners and everybody, just check your animals and kind of go from there. We will come back next week with some more updates on this particular issue, because I think it's going to be a while before we get our hands completely around it. But the good thing is, as of this morning at 7:18, that we only have 12 cases that we're currently tracking, and that has been holding. So that's a good thing. What we're doing by putting out the sterile flies is actually working. I think next week, depending on where we're at, I may pull a video that kind of show you that whole process. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, that how we actually fight it. So that's currently where we're at on that particular piece. And that's kind of a good news story. At the same time, a little bit of a tough story. Yes, we're dealing with the screwworm. Yes, we got some friction points here and there. However, currently it's not. It looks like it's not moving. They got it contained, but we'll continue to monitor that and see what we got going on out there. I want to move on now, and like I mentioned, this morning's show is going to be pretty quick. Oh, I didn't say it. Let me step back. I want to take time and say happy June 10th Day. This is a holiday that it hadn't been around that long, and I'm just glad that we actually have this holiday. So when I finish this show today, I'm going to go to a couple of different events and just celebrate the June 10th and celebrate all the great things that this nation has done. and kind of go from there. So I apologize for not saying that up on the top, but that is kind of the reason why today's show is going to be a little bit shorter, is because as soon as we finish doing this, got to go outside, check the cows, and then get on the road and go to a couple different events today. So have fun with your families today, this weekend. It's probably going to be a good rainy weekend, but at the end of the day, have fun. Make sure they understand the history. Make sure they understand why we celebrate this particular day. And then also make sure they understand that this particular holiday is probably been around for less than 5 or 6 years. It hadn't been that particular long. But it has been something that we celebrated in the African-American community for a long time. It's just now in the recent years has turned into a national holiday. And I'm glad we have an opportunity to celebrate it. Now, let me go back to what we were talking on the show. The next piece of that I want to talk to you about just real quick is, as y'all guys know, if you step back and look at the logic of the show, this morning, I took the time to go international with you and told you what was going on in the Middle East. Then we came back to the United States and we talked about the screwworm. We even talked about what we're doing here in Georgia. All of those things are putting pressure on Georgia farmers and farmers around the nation. I think I might have told you last week that Georgia farmers, believe it or not, are in second place to Arkansas when it comes to foreclosures. Right now, the current weather that we're dealing with is we either got places that are in droughts, so farmers are dealing with a drought, or as of right now, we got places that are flooded from the storm that's making its way out of the Gulf all the way up. So now we have too much water, and if crops were out, they're flooded, or you can't get in the field and all those kind of things. I mentioned all of that is because you got the international pressure of Iran and what's going to come with the peace deal. You got the screwworm pressure that's out there, and that's affecting the livestock side of our stew. And then you also have the weather that's affecting row crop and everything else across the board, including livestock. Because right now, one of the things, y'all guys know, my farm is not the biggest farm in the world. I never wanted to be the biggest farm in the world. But I buy my hay. And I talked to my hay guy a couple of days ago, and he made a very profound statement. I said, hey, this time last year, I'd already bought the hay. It was out at my house, in the shed, the whole 9 yards. And I said, where you at on the hay? He said, Sean, I got plenty of hay, but it's actually still grass in the field because we had not had 3 or 4 or 5 days of sunlight. He can't get out there and cut it. So the reality of it is this weather, even though it's good, we got plenty of grass, it's actually hurting us at the same time, because many of the individuals that are in the hay business can't find 3 to 4 or 5 days that they can cut the hay, let it dry, and bale it and get it out of the fields before it gets wet again. So I tell you all that to get to this particular subject. Farming is tough, and I think everybody understands that. It is tough, but it is very rewarding, and we need to make sure that we keep farming and farmers always at the forefront and making sure that they can actually make a living. And at the same time, trying to open up doors that we can actually bring other younger farmers into it. Y'all guys know I was born on a farm and all of that. But really, when I look through the lens of myself, I left, went to the military, all those kind of things, always came back and helped out on the farm. But it was my military experience and my saving of money to help me buy the farm that I'm on today. And with that being said, I'm always looking for ways that we can find a way to get young people into farming. And the reason why I bring this up at this moment is right now, like I mentioned earlier, Georgia is second to Arkansas when it comes to bankruptcy. And what concerns me is this. If we continue to have farmers going out of business, then the question goes into play, who's actually buying that farm. Who's buying it? Because right now, young people are already struggling trying to buy a house before they're 40. And the question is, then how are young people even going to afford to buy a farm? Because you can't go out there with $12 and think you're going to buy a farm. And nobody's just going to give you one. And that's even if your parents had it, your grandparents had it, it's still an incurred cost there when you actually get it turned over to you. You still got to be able to make a living off of it. And it's going to be a lot of work. With that being said, let me tell you a little bit more about bankruptcy that's currently going on in the great state of Georgia. I'm not sure. Okay, yes, I do have a slide here. And one of the things I'll make sure that it gets posted today is that, again, bankruptcy is extremely high here in Georgia. Like I mentioned earlier, we are second to Arkansas. The reason why I bring up Arkansas is because if you following any agriculture news, they're always talking about Arkansas. But the reality of it is every day Georgia's catching up with them. And if we don't watch it, we're going to overtake Arkansas. And when I say overtake Arkansas in bankruptcy, that's not a good thing. That's saying that we actually got a major problem here in Georgia, and the pressure of farming, the pressure of weather, the pressure of getting the loans or the grants that we need to put crops in the field is putting too much pressure on too many of our farmers, and they're not being able to survive. So with that being said, just make sure that you're constantly talking to the USDA. Make sure you're talking to other family members that if you get in a tight, that you can have a way to just keep the farm going for the next year. Like I said, I'm concerned that as these farms go bankrupt and it comes up on the market, will it be other farmers that can afford to buy it, or will it be corporate America that's buying these farms? And I'm concerned corporate America is going to be looking to buy some of these farms and buy for two reasons. One, corporate America buys the farm, and this is happening in Georgia. Corporate America buys the farm, and then they turn the farm into a neighborhood. And then we have lost that farmland forever. Or farmland is in distress, farmer is in a bad situation, and then all of a sudden, as y'all guys know, here in Georgia, we are leading the country when it comes to data centers. And I'm concerned that now data centers are going to start, or companies of data centers are going to start looking at, well, where are the farmers that are in trouble? Can I buy that 100, 200, 300 acres from him right now, make him a lot of money, but we'll never get that back. And now we got another data center. So we're going to take some time, dig deep into that in the next couple of weeks as things play out. But I just wanted to make sure you're aware that we need to make sure that we keep our farmers in your prayers, because it's tough out here right now. Yes, on the cattle side, we're making money when we take them to the market. However, with the screwworm situation, we're one social media post from people being scared to eat the meat. And that's why we continue to tell people that the meat and stuff is safe. I just want to say good morning to all the people that are following me. I see it's popping up there on the screen. Thank you for all your support. Hey, thank you, Blakely, Georgia. Blakely, Georgia is where I'm from. Blakely, Georgia, that is what's made me. And Blakely, Georgia, when it's all said and done, is where they're going to take me back, if you understand what I'm saying. And so again, thank you, Blakely, Georgia. And again, today is June 10th. We want to make sure that you take time, understand what the holiday is about, spend time with your family, pass on great information to your children so that they understand where we came from, where we're going, and what we need to continue to work on. With that being said, I think I'm getting pretty close to the end of the show, but I do need to let you know is that this, as farmers are being stressed, as y'all guys know, I spent a few years in the military, and soldiers are also stressed. But in this case, farmers are very stressed now. I say it every week. Family members, fellow farmers, if you're stressed and you're thinking about making a long-term decision for a short-term problem, before you do that, pick up the phone, call 988. I guarantee you they're going to answer the phone. I can also guarantee you somebody on the other end is a professional and will be able to talk to you and help you get through whatever crisis you think you actually in and help you get to the next day. I'm a firm believer. If you can just get to the next day and the sun, you see the sun come up, you can get enough help, and people will help you in your community to help you get through this particular problem. And like I said, this is very important to me because here in Georgia, our bankruptcy is going up very quickly. And I'm worried that some of our farmers may make a long-term decision for a short-term problem. So with that, this is the number. It'll be posted on all of my stuff on forums on Voice from the Dirt Road. Please, if you got a problem, please address it. With that being said, and this is our cool logo over there. I'm not sure, can you see it? But I ask you when we get off the show today, and it goes to YouTube, please, if you watch it, great, but share it with your friends because we actually have more people watch our show on YouTube than we actually have it watch it live. But I do want to say thank you to everybody that's watching right now, because without any advertisement, without any behind the scene games, right now, give yourself a hand clap. 305 people are actually watching me talk about agriculture here in the great state of Georgia at 7:31 in the morning. That right there says that people are interested on what's going on in the world of agriculture, and we want to do everything that we possibly can to make you aware of what's going on. So with that, hey, I believe that you're going to have a great weekend. We'll see you next Friday. If you see me around somewhere this week, just stop and say hi. And look, hey, the cup is empty. Have a great day.